Hey, welcome in this video. My name is Zsolt Kovács. I'm dealing with business processes for more than 5 years now. I recently dived deep into Microsoft Copilot Studio, the flows inside it, and how we can exploit it in real-life business scenarios. Now, in this today's video, I would like to show you how a Microsoft Copilot Studio flow can handle incoming emails with invoice attachment completely automatic from managing the emails, managing the attachments, and filling out an online Excel table, registering the data to the specific columns of the invoices that can be further processed. The ones that are not possible to process are moved to an error folder. By the end of this video, we will have a step-by-step description how you can build up this flow in Power Automate and Microsoft Copilot Studio. Even if you want, I can share with you this flow that contains all the text inputs and all the variables that you can just copy paste into Power Automate or Microsoft Copilot Studio. Let's dive into it. The topic of today's video is how AI reads your invoices in seconds. And as I mentioned, this will be a complete Microsoft Copilot Studio process. I have divided this into 7 points, 7 main paragraphs. I'm just going through on them, showing you the settings in Prospect, then also in the real system, and finally we will have 3 incoming emails with altogether 5 attachments, and we will see in real life how this flow handling the invoice attachments. The first point is the email trigger and attachment handling. Let me show it to you in Prospect. How is it built up? The whole process looks like this as an overview. I have indicated the 7 points that are mentioned in the presentation, and the first one is the email trigger and attachment handling. Basically, generally, we are starting from Power Automate. We are building up, as you can see here in this blue container, a longer Power Automate flow that is managing something, and then after that we are jumping into Microsoft Copilot Studio, this purple one, and inside we have a red container which is indicating an agent flow. We have a dedicated Power Automate flow that is serving as a trigger, and the name of the flow is email invoice processing, which is starting with when a new email arrives trigger, where we are setting up some parameters, include attachment yes, only with attachment yes, and folder is to process. This means only the invoices with attachments will be processed, and the invoices that are appearing in the to process email folder. That is very important because maybe you have an inbox, emails are coming in, the ones you want to be processed, you just simply move to this folder and the flow is triggered. After that, we have our second point, OCR text extraction from attachments. Now that we have the invoices that are triggering the flow, we are going to the point number 2, OCR text extraction from attachments. First, we are initializing a variable. This is a string variable, all text is the name, and the default value is 0. This one will be a long string variable where we will store all the OCR data that we are gathering from the attachments. After that, we are initiating an apply to each loop where the loop goes through on all attachments of the specific emails. It can be that an email contains more invoices. It's not a problem. We are going through all of them. Inside this loop, we have first the get attachment action, which is gathering the attachment data of the specific email that we are indicating with the message ID and the attachment ID. Then we have the create file attachment. We are saving this email attachment file into a SharePoint library. In a SharePoint library, we have a specific folder structure set up for this process. The output file format and file name. The output file format is the same as the input. We are indicating which SharePoint site we want to use. There, what is the folder name where we want to store the invoices, and the file name is set up in a way that we are adding from the sender of the email name, then we are setting the subject name, setting the date, and also adding at the end the attachment name, what we are talking about in this loop currently. And the file content is the content bytes of that attachment. All these data will be gathered with the help of the get attachment action. I'm showing to you quickly in SharePoint how we have this folder structure. We have the invoices root folder inside the shared documents folder. There we have 4 folders, subfolders: error, invoice data, OCR, TXT, and processed. In the invoice data folder, we have the invoice registration online Excel file that looks in a following way. We have a simple table with 7 columns: invoice number, vendor, customer, invoice date, due date, gross total amount, and currency. These data we will gather from the invoices. So where we are now, that we are having the attachment, we stored this attachment, and where we are storing this attachment is this invoice folder here. From here afterwards, it will be managed, and we will work further with this invoice that is stored here. After that, we are using the recognize text in image or document action in Power Automate. The input of this action is the attachment file that we have already stored, and there we are adding it as a dynamic value, as a parameter input from the get attachment action, where we are taking the content bytes as the input for this action. After that, after the OCR action, we have to apply to each loops embedded inside each other. The first one is looping through all the pages of the recognized document or image. The second one is looping through all the lines and extending the all text string variable with the help of the append to string variable action with the data gathered from the documents. And in order to manage this in a structured way, we have a format here in which we are not only storing the text values or the text input from the documents, but we are also storing the top and left coordinates of the bounding boxes of this text. This is important because after that in Microsoft Copilot Studio, the AI will not only have a simple string about the text on the doc, but we'll have a picture where the texts are located in the document and how it can be understood that these text data are belonging to the vendor addresses, the other ones to the due dates or due informations, and so on. The parameter that we are using here in the append to string variable action is a formula which looks in the following way, that you can simply copy here, or as I mentioned to you, I can share it with you via follow spec in order to simply copy this. After that, what we are doing, we don't want all these text data to be sent to Microsoft Copilot Studio as a prompt, because it would overload with the length of this text, this prompt execute agent action. What we are doing, we are storing all these text data into a TXT file in the same SharePoint library, and after that in the Microsoft Copilot Studio flow, we will grab for this file and read the data inside the flow without overloading the prompts. For that, we are creating a file. The input of this file is the all text variable. The output will be a resource, which is a TXT file in the file name containing the message ID and the attachment name, and it is stored in the OCR TXT folder, which can be found here in the SharePoint library. This is empty at the moment. This is the folder where the text data will be stored. In order to do that, we have the input as the all text variable, and we need to do the following settings in the create file action. We are setting the site address, the folder path, and the file name. In the file name, we just simply connecting the message ID and the name of the attachment with the help of this formula, and the file content is basically the all text variable. So this was point number 2. After that, what we do, we are moving forward to point number 3, the AI agent trigger and data parsing. As I mentioned to you, it is very important that we are not overloading the prompt with a huge amount of text that we need to send to the agent. That's why in the execute agent action that comes afterwards, we are only sending to the AI agent as a body message the following. The OCR text pass is the following variable that we can define as a dynamic variable, and the original file ID is the following variable. In this way, we can say what is the path for the txt file where the content in the attachment is stored, and also what is the ID of the original attachment file. Then the Copilot Studio agent is triggered, where we need to select which agent we want to trigger with the help of this action. As I mentioned to you in the very beginning, this is a loop that is going through on all the attachments in the email. And at the very end of each attachment loop, the all text variable, with the help of a set variable, will be set back to null, to a 0 empty variable. And when we are finished with all the attachments and we are outside the loop, we are moving the email with the help of the input of the message ID to the processed folder. So in your email account, you have two subfolders, the to process and the processed, and the emails will be moved from the to process folder to the processed folder when we have processed all the emails with the help of this flow, and without saying anything whether the attachments were processed or run to error. If I want to show it to you in Power Automate, this flow looks like this. Basically, the settings are exactly the same that I have showed you in FlowSpec. I can quickly go through on all of them, but basically you have all the data and you can build up the flow step by step. We have also the recognize text in document action, the to apply to each loops embedded inside each other, append to string variable where we have this formula that I showed you, create a file also with a formula for the name and the all text variable as the input, the execute agent, set variable which is resetting the all text variable, and we can fill it up with the data of the other attachment and the movie in action. Then if I continue the description of the flow in FlowSpec, what happened? Now the Microsoft Copilot Studio agent received the prompt which is containing the OCR file path and the original file ID. In Microsoft Copilot Studio, we have a dedicated agent for that. This agent uses the generative AI orchestration, GPT-5 chat model is turned on for that, and the instructions. There's a very simple message. If a prompt arrives that contains the file path of the txt file, then please use this topic, and email invoice processing is the name of the topic that should be used. And this is set up in a way that I will explain to you now step by step. How this topic is started is we have a prompt action, get OCR file path and the original file ID. The input is the system activity text, basically the prompt that we are receiving, and we have the following prompt setup. There's an input, and the output should be a JSON variable containing the original file path and the original file ID. Basically, we're storing from the input prompt these two datas in a variable that we will use later on. And the output is a JSON variable with these two parameters. After that, we are having an action, an agent flow, where we have the input, and the only input is the OCR file path that we are having with the structured output function from this JSON variable we created in the previous step. And this agent flow is the get OCR text agent flow, building up from these 5 steps. When the agent calls the flow, then the input will be stored as a string variable and the name is path. Then we are getting the get file content with the help of the get file content using path parameter, where the input is a resource, basically the txt file that is stored in the txt folder in SharePoint. We are saying which SharePoint site address should be used and what is the file path that we are getting from the Copilot Studio topic. Then we are responding to the agent where the content of this txt file will be transferred in a variable which is called OCR text, which is a string variable, and it contains the content from the get file content using path action. After that, we are getting the metadata of this txt file with the help of the get file metadata using path, where we are using as an input the path of this txt file that we got from Microsoft Copilot Studio, and with the help of a delete file action, we are just simply deleting this txt file. So it is said that this OCR txt folder should be always empty, because the end of each flow we are deleting the dedicated txt file belonging to that flow. Then we are jumping back to Microsoft Copilot Studio, and we have received the OCR text variable, which is a string variable, and it contains all the OCR text values and the coordinates of the bounding boxes of the text. Then we need to move to point number 4, and point number 4 is AI-powered invoice data extraction. Here comes the main logic, where we have a prompt action. The input of this prompt is this OCR text variable containing all the OCR data, and we have a prompt here which is serving to get the structured data from this OCR text string variable. It looks like this. In the description, the text in the OCR input is structured in the following way. The text generated the OCR, and then we have the bounding box coordinate, the top left corner of the bounding boxes of the text. What to do? Please get the data from the text and generate a JSON file with the instructions below. And this is how the JSON file should look like. And these are the descriptions for each parameters of the JSON file. For example, invoice number, the invoice number or ID from the OCR input. This one should be. And here you can see how the different parameters, which are basically the different columns in the invoice registration Excel file, should be gathered. And at the very end, we have an important parameter, all data is okay. If all the data above can be recognized and we have a value for them, then it's yes, all data are okay, and otherwise no. This will decide whether this invoice attachment will move on the processed way and will be moved to a processed folder and we are having the data, or will be moved to the error folder. Then we are getting to point number 5, which is conditional logic, success path versus error path. After that, in Microsoft Copilot Studio, that we are having the data of the invoice stored in a JSON variable, we are introducing a condition, all data is okay, which is just simply checking where this one parameter, all data is okay, is yes or no. If yes, then we are moving on the process path. If no, then we are moving to the error path. Let's say this is yes. After that, we are having a tool, add the row into a table, and this is the invoice generation XLSX. It's a dedicated tool for that online Excel file, where we have as an input the invoice data JSON variable. The output will be that online Excel file. This online Excel file is set up in the following way. We have the different column names that I showed you in the online Excel file, and these columns will be filled with the dedicated data from this JSON variable. In order to manage this, we need to add as an input a formula. This formula looks in the following way. It contains all the columns that the online Excel file also has and attaches the values to the different columns from this invoice data JSON variable with the help of the structured output function. This is how this formula looks like. And in the tool, we have these permanent settings where the location, the document library, the file, and the row is set for this online registration online Excel file. After we manage the adding of the new lines into this Excel file, we have another tool, Move File and Processed is the name here. In this case, we had in the very beginning this get OCR file path and original file ID prompt action, from where we are having here the original file ID that can be an input for this move file action, and the input resource is basically the attachment file that is stored now until that point in the invoice folder, and after that point it will be moved to the destination folder, which is the processed folder. In this case, we are on a proceeded path, and if not all data are okay and we are on the error path, then this same file will be moved to the error folder. At the very end, as point number 6, we have the email cleanup and system reset. This is basically the action that I showed you in Power Automate after finishing the execution of the agent in the loop of each attachment. After that, we are setting the value of the alt text variable to null, to empty, 0, and we are moving the email that was managed to the processed folder, to the processed email folder. And this is how this whole flow is set up. Let me show you how is it done in Copilot Studio. We have here the topic with the same actions and the same prompts that I showed you. Exactly. Then we have a get OCR text action, where we have the get OCR text agent flow. This is built up in the following way with the same settings I showed you in FlowSpec. Getting the file metadata, and after that deleting the file. Then here's a simple message for me just to check how the process is going and by which step we have any issues or how is it looking like. Then we have the invoice processing logic with the same prompt that I showed you in FlowSpec. I'm just opening this here as well with the only input, the OCR input, and the same setup of the prompt. Here is the condition, checking the all data's okay value if it's yes, if it's no. And here, as I see, we need to add once again the input of the add the row into a table action, which is the one that I showed you in FlowSpec, having all the column names of the online Excel file and using the structured output function to get the values from the JSON variable. If we are on the processed path, then we have after that the move file processed action. Here we also need to add the source file ID, which is the original file ID from the JSON variable. And if we are on the error path, we have the move file error tool to move the original attachment file to the error folder. I'm saving this flow once again, then publishing this once again as well. Point number 7 is the complete data flow and integration points. We can have a recap, a summary of this whole flow in 7 steps. We have a trigger. The emails arrived in the to process folder with attachments will be processed. Then we have the OCR action, extracting the text with the help of the bounding box coordinates and saves it in a txt file on SharePoint. The agent gets the file path to this txt file and the original file ID of the attachment that is also stored in SharePoint from the email. Then the AI extracts the fields, the dedicated data from the OCR text input, and also sets the parameter all data is okay to yes or no, depending on whether all the data have been found in the input or not that are required to fill in the online Excel table. Then the Excel file will be filled with a new row if we have all data, and the file will be moved to the processed folder if everything went well, or error folder if some data are missing. Then we are cleaning up the variables in a Power Automate and moving the email to the process folder. And basically the flow is ready and waiting for the next invoice. Let's see now in a demo how this process is running. I have prepared 3 emails with altogether 5 invoice attachments. I'm showing to you. Here I have my first email with 1 attachment. The invoice is a PNG file, looking in the following way. By the second one, I have a JPEG file with the following content. And by the third one, I have 3 attachments. One JPEG file, which has no due date. So this one, the third one, should go to the error folder. And the fourth one is a PDF file with 2 pages. And the last one is a PDF file with altogether 5 pages, just to see that these ones can be also managed with the help of this flow. What I need to do now is just simply move these 3 emails to the process folder and wait that they will disappear from here and appear in the processed folder. The first 2 emails already processed, and the third one as well. They can be found here in the processed folder. Let's see, in Power Automate, we are checking the activity of this flow. We see that 1 minute ago, 3 flow succeeded. In Microsoft Copilot Studio, checking the activity, there should be 5 completed ones with the same timestamp. This means that in the online Excel, we should have 4 rows exactly filled with the dedicated data that we talked about. And in SharePoint, we should have these 4 files in the processed folder and the third one in the error folder, that it wouldn't be processed. And this is the file I showed you without the due date. To have this flow already in FlowSpec has a huge benefit, because if you want to have in a company a documentation about the steps of this flow, who are the ones who are responsible for this flow, and what is the published version, when it was last modified, and so on, you can easily jump into the documentation tab here and generate a document with the help of the AI, where you select a predefined template. In this one, you have almost all the data, as you can see here, what this document will include, and you just wait for the generation. You have all the data inside the app, and from this, a structured document will be created. This is how it looks at the end. Well, here we have the propose and scope, precondition. We also have the screenshots from the canvas here embedded. Then the description of the process steps, one by one, KPI section, monitoring log, document control, but we can customize what we want to see here. As I mentioned in the very beginning, if you want me to share with you this flow via FlowSpec that you can access with the help of a free account, just leave me a comment below or contact me and I will come back to you. Now in this video we saw that Microsoft Copilot Studio, with the help of a Power Automate trigger and inside AI actions and agent flow, conditional decisions, with the help of these steps and building blocks, can manage to fully automatically gather invoice attachments from the emails, then get the content of these attachments, store them in a structured registration, now in an online Excel file, and then manage also the not completed ones that run to error in a way that the files will be moved to a processed or to an error folder. If you have any more business cases, business ideas that you think it would work to create a video about, please also leave a comment below.